November is going to be way busier than I thought it was. Oh, this is fine. Hey everybody, it's Anna and welcome back to my BookTube channel. So this video is going to be a little bit of kind of a rambly, loose plans for the future in the style of my spooky and cozy autumnal TBR. Except I think it's just going to be much less structured and hopefully not very confusing for all of you that are watching. But there are a couple things that I wanted to touch on for the month of November, as you can probably guess from the title. The first of those is that I am going to be doing NaNoWriMo and hopefully winning it this year for the first time ever. I've done it every year since 2014, except for last year, because last year I got married in November, and I didn't think it was a good idea to put the pressure of writing a novel and planning a wedding 3,000 miles away from where I actually live in the same month. Shocker, I know, but yeah, that was my plan. So I am gonna be doing NaNoWriMo this year, which means that my reading and my BookTube content might be a little bit more sporadically uploaded. We'll see. I'm probably gonna try and make some writing vlogs and stuff like that, but it might be a little bit more writing focused than reading focused. Again, I'm not sure. I'll go ahead and I guess link my NaNoWriMo profile down below if you want to check that out. And if you don't know what that is, I should mention that NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month. And basically it is a nonprofit organization of writers that all get together and draft a novel or 50,000 words of a, work of literature in some way, shape, or form for the month of November. This year, I am going to be revisiting something that I have been drafting since 2015, but I actually want to get the draft finished this year. I did a lot of world building in years past, but I actually want to fully write the story. I'm hoping that having all of my plot points outlined at this point as part of my preparation for NaNoWriMo is really going to help. We'll see if it works, but yeah, this is something that I just really want to finish because I've been working on it for a long time. And I'd really like to just make something out of this. Another thing that's coming up, this is more of a BookTube thing generally, is Nonfiction November. I'm not sure that this is like an actual, I don't know if it's actually hosted by a specific person or if it was a specific person's idea, but as long as I've been on BookTube, Nonfiction November has just been something that's been kind of like going around in the air. So if you know that there was somebody that started it, please let me know who that was because I have looked and I can't figure it out. But the idea is just that we read nonfiction books in November. I'm about to tell you, I'm planning on doing 3 different reading things in November, in addition to trying to write a novel. This is definitely way more than I can choose. So this is more just like if I have time, I'll read these, but I'm not holding myself to it because I don't want to die. So I have 3 nonfiction books that are on my shelves that I would love to get to by the end of this month. The first one is Chagall Burning Lights, which is a memoir by Bella Chagall, illustrated by her husband, Marc Chagall. They both grew up in what was then called White Russia, and they were Jewish immigrants to Paris. They survived the Nazis. They were both artists, writers. Marc Chagall is actually my favorite modern artist of all time, and they're just famous for being like Jewish creatives and intellectuals. And I picked this book up because I'm interested in them and their lives. Also, I don't really know a whole lot about Bella Chagall, but according to the back of this book, she was both an author and an actress, and I think that that's really cool. So I would love to read this memoir, this nonfiction November. The next book that I have, I guess, is also kind of a memoir, kind of social commentary, and that's called Lowborn: Growing Up, Getting Away, and Returning to Britain's Poorest Towns by Carrie Hudson. And I found out about this on, Jen, Jean, or Ashley's channel. I do not remember which one. I want to say it was Jen's channel. Anyway, I'll just link them down below and you can go find them. But I will go ahead and read a little bit of the blurb to you for that. Carrie Hudson is proudly working class, but she was never proudly poor. The poverty she grew up in was all-encompassing, grinding, and often dehumanizing. Always on the move with her single mother, Carrie attended 9 primary schools and 5 secondaries, living in B&Bs and council flats. She scores 8 out of 10 on the Adverse Childhood Experiences measure of childhood trauma. 20 years later, Carrie's life is unrecognizable. She's a prize-winning novelist who has traveled the world. She has a secure home, a loving partner, and access to art, music, film, and books. But she often finds herself looking over her shoulder, caught somehow between two worlds. Lowborn is Carrie's exploration of where she came from. She revisits the towns she grew up in to try to discover what being poor really means in Britain today and whether anything has changed. She also journeys into the hardest regions of her own childhood, because sometimes in order to move forwards, we first have to look. Yeah, anyway, so I am trying to diversify my reading by making sure to read lots of books by artists and authors from different social classes. So this will also be really interesting to read because it is specifically a look at class in Britain. And I know obviously there are some similarities with the US, but it is kind of different the way that like their social structure and their government works and how people view class. So I am interested to learn more about that. And then the last nonfiction book that I'm hoping to read is one that's been on my TBR since maybe like a year and a half ago, and I really just want to read it so I can get it off my TBR, and that is We Were Feminist Once, From Riot Girl to Cover Girl, From Riot Girl to Cover Girl, The Buying and Selling of a Political Movement by Andy Zeisler. Andy Zeisler is the former editor-in-chief of Bitch Magazine. They're now more broadly Bitch Media. If you haven't heard of them, please do check them out. They are a fantastic feminist, great publication that makes sure that they hire diverse authors and they pay them as well. They pay all of their contributors. And I really appreciate the work that they do as a ad and corporate free voice for feminist media. So Andy wrote this book, how many years ago was it? I actually saw her when she went, it was only 2016. Okay. Well, I saw her when the book had just come out or was about to be released. It must have been back in 2015 at my university, and she came and gave a talk about it. I was like, I'll pick up this book at some point. Found it in a used bookstore. Still haven't read it. Clearly that needs to change. Obviously, I think a lot has changed, and there's going to be a lot more discussion to be had within the feminist movement about the commodification of feminism and like social justice issues and things like that. But I want to read what she has to say because I really like just listening to the way her brain works. So those are the Nonfiction November books that I would like to pick from in November as well, and I will try and make separate TBR videos for these as well. We have the Believe in the Impossible readathon, or Believe-a-thon for short, and that is dedicated to reading and discovering or rediscovering, as may be the case, the magic of children's books, which I just really need to participate in, especially since the book that I'm going to be writing for NaNoWriMo is going to be a sort of like middle grade readers focused audience, and I really love reading middle grade, and I don't read it as often as I should. I don't know why, so I think this will be a really good time for me to do that. So the Believe-a-thon is going to be hosted by Gavin Hetherington, who is a booktuber who is pretty new to me. I will go ahead and link his stuff down below. And then the other readathon that I am going to be participating in is the Indigathon, which is short for Indigenous Readathon, and that is co-hosted by Brody from Et2Brody and Michelle from Thor Needs Another Letter. And they are both native booktubers, and they created this readathon to get people to read more books by and about Native authors, Native characters, Native representation in literature. And like my own co-hosted readathon, the Disability Readathon, I am super excited to see that they included challenges that were beyond just the reading of books. There are also challenges included to watch TV episodes, to read a book about Indigenous characters by a non-Indigenous author, basically as like a tool to use to teach people about this is what non-owned voices or even bad representation looks like, as opposed to things that are written by Indigenous authors. This is another thing where I actually looked at the statistics on this, and there are more books written about there are more books written for children, for instance, that have animals as protagonists than have people of color and children of color as protagonists. And of all of the children of color that are represented in children's literature, I think that Native American characters are maybe 1%. It is an appallingly small amount of representation of Native children that exists in children's literature. And I know that the problem is also further compounded across genres, but that was one statistic that when I was getting ready to read this readathon, I looked up. That really shocked me. It was like, we can have stories about talking animals and dragons, which are great, but we need to have stories by and about children. Like, we need to have stories about children of color at the same time, because representation matters. Representation saves lives. So, very briefly and loosely and rambly, that is kind of my loose plan for November 2019. Then I'm going to be co-hosting Queer Lit Readathon the first week of December. Then I'm going to be traveling to the East Coast again. Then I'm going to curl up in a ball and I'm going to sleep till Christmas and hopefully wake up and find that I've been given a lot of books, and then people won't see me until 2020 because I will be just lying in my room recovering with some tea and a stack of books. Fun times. Okay, so that is gonna do it for this video. I won't keep you here any longer, but if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and help me on my quest to 300 subscribers by the end of the year. I get closer every day, and it's all thanks to you who have subscribed. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.